Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Branny for inviting us over here today, and I want to thank all of you for being here. Scott, that was an amazing share. He's my husband, next to my sponsor, is just one of the best examples I know in AA. He's such a great AA, and I learn a lot from him on a daily basis. Because I'm a little more rebellious than he is, so it takes me a little longer to actually surrender my will and be willing to try it someone else's way. But I just want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I hope you have a safe and sane 2005. I was just thinking about that, and just we are so fortunate as alcoholics, because we can have a happy new year every day. Because it's like I'll get to live my life on a daily basis now, and it's one day at a time. And so if I have a bad day, I can wake up the next day and get to start over again. And I'm really grateful for that now. And because I never used to live that way. I was always running 1,000,000 miles a minute, looking to the future or regretting the past. And I've got a little over 6 years and 8 months of sobriety. My sponsor is Karen Garrison. She's been my sponsor for, I think, probably 4 years now. I went through a phase when one of my sponsors fired me because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to, basically. I was just running my own show, and she did the best thing she could for me at the time, and that was to fire my ass because I wasn't listening, and I was running around rebellious. And I remember one of the guys, who's my friend Tony V, saying, I remember you at the Saturday night meeting with your red bandana going around going, I don't have a sponsor. I'm just trying to be rebellious in AA. And then Karen came up to me and said, how you doing? And she checked in with me every time she saw me, and she said, if you want, I'll be your temporary sponsor. And I was like, well, okay, because I was totally being defiant and wanting to run my own show. But eventually I realised that, I wasn't going to get to stay sober unless I did what everyone else was doing, and she became my sponsor. It was funny because she would call, when I'd call her and she'd call me back, it would be, this is your temporary sponsor speaking. And then it would just irritate me so much. I was like, okay, will you be my sponsor? Just enough of the temporary. So I grew up in Scotland, just a little bit of what it was like, what happened and what it's like today. We've all got our own drunkalogs, and one thing I know how to do, and that's drink. I love alcohol. And just like Scott, I didn't do it because I had all those feelings of restlessness, irritability and discontent in the beginning. I couldn't have pinpointed those feelings when I was young. I just grew up in an environment and a culture where everybody went to the pub. That's what you do. You go there, you have a few drinks, you shoot pool, play darts and play cards and take the money off all the boys on a Sunday. But that was kind of the life I had, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And it wasn't till after I tried to stop drinking and trying to get sober that I realised what alcohol did for me. I didn't realise it was a solution for me. I just thought I drank because everyone else drank, and I didn't realise that it affected me differently than other people. And it took me a long time in AA and listening to other people share and going through the book and working my steps that I got to really concede to my innermost self that I was an alcoholic. It took me about 20 months of being around the program. I'm sorry if you're new, just hang in there. When I look back on that, the reality for me was I wasn't willing to let go of my alcohol because it was the one thing that had worked for me for so long, and it wasn't until I was willing to accept I was an alcoholic that the journey could really begin for me. And I survived on the fellowship that Scott talked about for a long time, and just going to meetings, getting commitments, and kind of doing what everyone else was doing on the outside. But on the inside, not really, you know, feeling completely broken and desperate and hopeless on the inside, but I didn't ever want to tell you that, you know. So my first drink, I think, was about, I was 15, and I went to a nightclub with some girlfriends. I think actually maybe I was 16, I can't remember exactly, but my boyfriend or ex-boyfriend had just broken up with me and I was devastated, so I was kind of stalking him. So I went to this club that was and we went to this club just to show him how good I looked and what he had lost, you know, that whole thing that we do. And I had a 3 gin and tonics, and I don't know why I had gin and tonic, but they told me the next day because I went into a blackout, they said the next day when I called my girlfriends that I threw up, caused a scene, and had to be escorted off the premises. And I was so humiliated when I found out that I'd done that, because that wasn't what I planned for. I just wanted to go and have fun and have a good time, but I couldn't believe that that's what had happened. And so for a long time after that, I didn't really drink because I was scared, because I didn't want that to happen again. But when I went to nursing school in 1988, I moved out of the house and started really drinking and sort of keeping everything in a neat little box. I was a periodic for a long time. I was very good at, you know, if I overshot the mark, pulling in the reins, getting everything back in a neat little box and making my life look like what I thought you were all doing. You know, I just wanted my life to look like everyone else's, and I was good at doing that. So I was a periodic for a long time, and I think that's part of the reason it took me a while to get that I was an alcoholic too. But towards the end of my drinking, I was putting whatever in my system on a daily basis just to get by, you know, whether it was drugs or alcohol. And, you know, I was such a snob in the beginning about drugs. I was like, I'll never be a drug addict. That's just way beneath me. But I became that, you know. I became an alcoholic, and I did a lot of drugs too. Because when I finished nursing school, and in 1980, actually 84 I went to nursing school, I'm sorry, and in 88 I qualified. And I remember seeing in the nursing magazine back home, the Nursing Times, there was this big ad, and it was, "We need nurses here," and it was Southern California, and it was a martini glass with an umbrella sticking out of it, and I was like, I want to go there, that's where I want to go. And you know, the company that was recruiting us, they made it so easy for me to show up there, and just all I had to do was bring the body. You know, they would take care of the business, they'd get the flights, bring us out here, get us the interviews, and you know, even that I almost screwed up. If it hadn't been for my mother, you know, dragging my ass to the airport, I would have missed the flight, because I was hungover, because I was doing all my farewells the night before and getting loaded, you know, like I do best. So I came out here and I sat you know, I interviewed and I sat the nursing board exams, and I thought I'd failed because I didn't do any studying. All I did was party for 2 weeks when I was here. And so I thought, well, at least I got a free vacation out of it, because it was free as long as, you know, they paid for everything. I just had to show up, and it wasn't unless I got accepted and passed the exam that I'd have to pay them back. And the way they did that was kind of take a cut off your check for a year. You had committed to a contract for a year with them. So I thought, well, I've not passed, so I'm getting a free trip out of this. Well, that wasn't the case. I actually passed the exam. They must have, I don't know how I did it, but so then I had to come back out here for a year, and I was freaked out because I was like a small town girl coming to the big city, and I was terrified. And so when I got back here, I knew I couldn't, you know, break the contract because they could sue me and all this stuff. So I just thought, I'm just going to come. I have a girlfriend who's coming with me. And I came out here, and, you know, I kind of thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity. I just need to take the bull by the horns here and really try and get my life together and give this my best shot, because this is the land of golden opportunity. When growing up in Scotland, coming to live in America is just like a far off dream. Never mind actually getting to do it, you know. So I came out here, and you know, I was only here I got here in the June of 1990, and then by the September I'd met the new him, because you know, I used to think if I just meet the right guy, everything will be okay, you know. And of course I'm in Molly Malone's on Fairfax and 6, which was my local, because I got an apartment just round the corner, so I didn't have to drive home, and spent many nights passed out in the tar pits over there. But I met the man of the moment. You know, he was fresh off the boat from Ireland, had this cute Irish accent, was cute to look at, didn't have a job, was illegal, was living on his sister's couch, you know, and was driving her spare car. And I thought, that's the guy for me, you know, because my picker was broke. And then, so the thing that came out of all of that was 5 years of complete chaos, and it talks about it in the book about the double life. And I'd go to work during the day, and then he becomes the coke dealer, and you know, the whole scenario that goes with that, where the phone's ringing off the hook, the carpet's wore out to your front door, you don't need a TV because we're the entertainment, and it was just chaotic, you know. And I had so much shame and guilt about the way I was living, because that's not kind of the way I'd wanted my life to be, but that's what happened. So for 5 years I'd go to work down at the hospital down the street and just try and make ends meet and try and have a normal life. But the minute I got off, I was smoking weed and drinking wine, and you know, because during the week I would justify that wasn't a problem, because I'd only have like a joint and a couple of glasses of wine. I didn't really drink until the weekend, when I got absolutely loaded and get out of my box. That was on the weekend. So during the week it wasn't really drinking, it was just having a couple of glasses of wine, and that's kind of how I justified it in my mind. And so those 5 years were just got worse. It just downward spiraled, and it just, you know, it was getting to the point where, you know, I'd only have to work 3 shifts a week, and I couldn't even show up for that, and I'd call in sick, and, you know, I'd had more dead grannies and uncles and, you know, car wrecks that, you know, it's like you know how your imagination goes, how you just call in sick because you don't want to lose the job, but you can't show up just because your nerves are shattered, and you've been out till 7 a.m. I'm supposed to be at work, you know. I remember one time, this is at the very end of my drinking, I went out for a couple of drinks with some friends, and ended up going over to see the new man of the moment, 2 o'clock in the morning. That was my best thinking. Oh, I'm sure he'll appreciate a visit from me at 2 in the morning, you know. I'm here, you know. The car's parked in his driveway, still running, the engine's still running. So I'd get him out of bed. Poor guy I've tried to make amends to him, but he just doesn't want to see me. But my sponsor said to leave it alone. You know, you made the effort, but just leave. If he doesn't want to see you, just leave him alone. That will be your amends to him, because I caused chaos in anybody's life. Anybody whose life I touched, I just caused chaos, and I was like the Tasmanian devil. And I just thought, you know, I was having fun, and you know, if you just leave me alone, I'd be fine. And the only person I'm hurting here is me. You know, that's what I thought. But this particular time, I buzzed this guy, and he got up, and I said, the car's still in the driveway there, can you move it into the back? And he said, okay, so he does that, and then we get into a fight because I'm drunk and I'm belligerent and I'm just argumentative. And so I'm rolling a joint at the table, and he's like, what are you up to? And so we have a fight, and then he asks me to leave, and of course I don't want to leave. And so what ends up happening is we have a huge, he moves the car, back up here, he moves the car in the back, and in the interim, some homeless guy carjacks him in my car. I'm sorry for laughing, but the best I could come up with, we came in and he was totally shook up, and he's like, I said, what's going on? And I'm rolling my joint. He's like, some guy just carjacked your car. I'm like, you let someone take my car? I mean, no empathy or sympathy for this poor guy who just had someone stick a gun in his head and steal the car. All I'm interested in is my car. So, of course, we call the cops, and the cops come, and it's a whole drama. And then I storm off because I'm belligerent, and the cops had offered to give me a ride home, but of course I don't want that. But then I'm walking home, and then I realise I've left my weed on the table. So of course I'm like, oh shoot, I need to go back and get that. So I run back to go get it. The police officer's still there, and of course he's like, ma'am, wait there. And of course I'm not. I'm totally argumentative and belligerent. I'm like, try and stop me. So click. Next thing I'm in handcuffs and being carried off to the drunk tank in Van Nuys, and of course I'm supposed to be working at UCLA the next morning. So of course there's a phone. There was a big, a communal jail cell, and there's 7 of us in there, and there was a phone, and they let me make one phone call, and I'm trying to call UCLA sick, and in the background there's a girl yelling, "Let me out, you Nazi bastards!" And I'm like, I won't be in today. I'm not feeling so good. I mean, oh God. that's how that was my life. And so, I used to think when I was at work, I was a good nurse and people knew I was good at my job. And I think they gave me a way more leeway than I ever deserved. But I had the attitude of, you're lucky to have me. Don't you see how good I am? And just this total attitude about my life and who I was, and just that sense of entitlement. And it was all stuff that was covering up something that was deep inside of me, and I didn't even know it. I was just one big ball of fear. And I was scared you were going to find me out any minute. And that's why I drank. And the drinking, it continued. And then at Christmas of 1997, I went back to Scotland to spend some time with my dad, my stepdad anyway. And he was going to have open heart surgery in the February, and I was going home to just spend some time with him because I wasn't going to be there for the operation. And all I did was drink and use for 3 weeks solid. And I came back off of that run, and I remember my mother looking at me and just shaking her head. And the good news about being all the way over here away from them was at least I didn't have to look at them in the face and them see how I was just destroying my life. So when I came back, I swore off. I was like, that's it. My New Year's resolution is I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to use, I'm going to get my life together. I felt so ashamed of that I wasn't able to be there for my dad, We've got a good relationship today. I just spoke to him this morning, and I felt I just couldn't even show up for them, and I'll never, that was a turning point for me, really. But what ended up happening was it took me till April to get sober, because I went for like 3 months or something without doing any drugs, and I was like, wow, that's amazing, let's have a drink and celebrate, completely forgetting why I'd stopped doing all that stuff. And my journey here has been a slow one, and I'm grateful for that. But I have an amazing life. And if you'd told me when I walked through the doors on April 10th, 1998, that I would be sober 6 years, 8 months and 21 days now, I'd be living in the valley, pregnant with twins, I would have laughed at you and said, no, you're confusing me with someone else. That's not me. Because that just wasn't the life I saw for myself. I just had these delusions of being some big shot or being discovered, I don't know, just something other than what my life has become. And you know what, I'm so grateful for the life I have today, because in some ways it's simple, but it's comfortable. I can live my life without drinking or using anything. Nothing in my body. I even feel weird taking Tylenol right now when I'm pregnant, which is a complete extreme for me, because I was putting whatever I could in my system before just to not feel, just to escape my reality. But as I say, my journey was slow. Scott and I like to say he 13-stepped me, but he reminds me that no, I was the one that called him on the phone, which is what I usually do. Because 13-stepping is step 1, my life is unmanageable. Step 12, let me share that with you. Makes step 13. But I have a great life. It doesn't mean that it's all hunky-dory. There's days, that's why it's so great that we get to live one day at a time, because there's days where I feel like I'm the statue, and there's days that I feel like I'm the pigeon. There's some days that it's grunt work, and it's like, God, another day. But you know what? I was very depressed in the beginning. I just thought there was no light. I just felt hopeless a lot of the time. But I'll tell you, the depression for me has lifted, and the periods of depression are less frequent, and they're less, the time frame that I feel that way is less. And I know it's because I just keep putting one foot in front of the other and taking actions. And then when I'm asking you how you're doing, I'm not thinking about me. And I heard someone say that once, and I used to say, no, that's not true. I can still be asking you how you're feeling and still be thinking about what I'm going to be doing for a minute. But that's got quieter. It still can be there, but as long as I'm putting one foot in front of the other and taking the actions that are suggested, like doing an inventory and sharing those dirty secrets as a woman, that you swore you'd never tell anyone. And I remember doing my 4-step with Karen, and she was laughing at me and telling me her stories, because I don't know if you know Karen, she's got a pretty horrific story, and she'd like, you think that's bad? Listen to this. And like, okay, so then I don't quite feel so bad. And then I got to do some 9-step work where I got to make amends to people. Like I tried to make amends to that boy, but he kind of like, just leave me the hell alone, which is enough, And I remember when I did in 1995, we did with the Irish boy, we decided we needed to go back to Ireland because it was LA that was the problem. So I had a car, and the car was being, it was a new car. I don't know how I managed to get it, but I got a new car, and we needed to give it back, but we'd had a big fight, and he'd smashed all the windows out of the car. So we needed to get on an airplane pretty quick because the coke dealer that he was buying from, he owed money. It was just something like out of a B movie. It was really bad, but we ended up dropping the car off at the Autoglass Centre in La Cienega on our way to the airport. And so I thought, well, I'm not coming back here. I don't need to get in the car back. What more do they want? So when I came back here and started working my amends, I'll tell you, I thought there was debtor's jail out here. I was so clueless. And one of the things I was told to do was to call up that car company, because on my TRW and my credit reports, there was like a $7,000 tag on this car. And I'm like, how can that be? They got the blooming car back. Anyway, my sponsor said, just call them up. And I'll tell you, that was like the £1,000 telephone, trying to pick up that phone. It took me weeks to do it, but I did it eventually. And those people were like, you want to pay back the money? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, cool. So they set up a payment plan for me, and I paid that money back to them, and then it was cleaned off of my record. And then I got to get some freedom from that. But later on down the line, without even expecting it, I was trying to buy a new car because my old rinky-dink, alcoholic car was almost done. And so I tried everywhere but the company that had repossessed the car from me, because I knew in my mind that there's no way in God's creation they're ever going to even consider me for a car. I've already screwed them over once. So I went to every other car dealership, I think, in LA. Denied, denied, denied. So eventually I went to this particular car company, and they've approved me for a brand new car. Called my sponsor. I'm like, I don't understand this. She said, well, you've got a history with them. They already knew who you were, and you paid them back the money, so they obviously think that you're good for it. So just take it and say thank you. So that was one of the things that came out of it without even expecting it. But my amends to my family. I got to go back to my real father was killed in a car accident when I was only a baby, so I never knew him, but I never knew where he was buried or anything. And there was a piece of me that just wanted to go respect his grave and know where he was buried, and just try and be be somewhat of a good daughter. And what ended up happening was I went home and I said to my mum I wanted to go see the grave, and she'd never been to the graveside and since the day she had buried him 34 years before. And she decided she wanted to come with me, and I couldn't have orchestrated that. I was just doing this, following my sponsor's direction and going to take care of some business. And my mum came with me, and there was a healing took place, and it was a really cool experience. I can't explain it. It was a turning point for me and my mum, and my relationship with her has changed tremendously. The biggest gift she has been given is from you guys, in that she doesn't have to worry about her daughter anymore because she knows I'm safe, even though I'm 6,000 miles away. And she'll be forever grateful for that. And she knows that today because she's seen how much my life has changed since getting sober. She still wonders sometimes, how much longer I'm going to have to do this. But she's very grateful. And she's retired now, and she's coming out in the new year when the babies come to help me. I mean, that's pretty cool from where I came. I was this loser, just scraping by. I was almost homeless, and I used to sort of be a snob, as I said, and think, well, I had the apartment, I had the car. Well, I'd been fired from the job, and I was claiming disability, and they were the government was actually paying my bills, if the truth be known, and they had already said, you know what, you need to go back to work, you're fine. So they'd cut the checks for me. So if I'd been one more month, I would have been on the street, and that's the reality. And I have to remember that, because the longer I stay sober, the harder it is. It gets difficult to remember how bad it really was, and that's why I have to keep coming to the meetings, meeting newcomers and talking to them and listening to how their life is and being reminded of it. But overall, again, I just want to wish everybody a safe, sane and sober 2005. And if you're new, just get a sponsor. And it doesn't matter what your head. I mean, the worst at trying to take direction. I really screwed up a lot and fell on my face a lot of times. But the beautiful thing about this program is, even by falling on my face, as long as I get to pick myself up and try again, people will still love me. They're not going to throw me away, you know. And I had a fear that when you found out that I was such a mess up, that you would just throw me away and I wouldn't have another chance at this. But, you know, thank God it's progress and not perfection. And the God I have in my life today is big enough to handle every area of my life, even though sometimes I don't think so. And I have to, on a daily basis, have a, you know, try and reconnect and have my conscious contact with God by praying. And I don't meditate well, trust me. Sitting still for any length of time is hard for me, but before I got pregnant, I used to rollerblade at the beach with my dog, and that was like a meditation for me, and that connected me with my God. And all those things that I used to fear and worry about, I'm reminded that if my God's big enough to keep me sober, my God is big enough to pay the mortgage, to help me with these babies, to, you know, to get the bills. And so my God has become big enough to handle every area of my life. And in the beginning, I was only willing to let my alcoholism be treated by a God, because every other area, self-sufficiency was something I strived for my whole life. It talks about that in chapter 3 in the 12 and 12. It says that self-sufficiency is the bone-crushing juggernaut whose only achievement is ruin. I so relate to that, because I just thought if I could manage better, or I could just, you know, be more self-sufficient and just handle my business better, everything would be okay. But the reality is, the more I've been willing to let go and turn over to my God, the freer I've felt and the more independent I've felt, even though I'm dependent on something. So if you're new, I just hope you stick around. If I'm talking double Dutch, that's okay. It didn't make sense to me in the beginning, but I just love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I hope you find what I've found. Thanks.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. and I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.